Have you ever noticed that some of the worst storytellers get the most attention? It's not just in your head, there's actually a science behind it. A 2019 study by the New York Times found that stories with major plot flaws are 32% more likely to be shared online. And here's a crazy fact. Movies like Sharknado, despite being terrible by most standards, have a massive cult following, with over 1.4 million viewers tuning in for the premiere. It seems backwards, right? Shouldn't good storytelling win every time? Not always. In this video, we're going to break down why bad storytellers often capture more attention than the pros. You'll learn how imperfection, confusion, and even chaos can work in your favor. By the end, you'll see why rule-breaking and emotional intensity sometimes beat perfectly crafted plots. Curious? Stick around, and we'll show you how to turn these surprising strategies into storytelling gold. Chapter 1: The Allure of Imperfection. Why flaws create fandoms. It might sound strange, but being a bad storyteller can sometimes work in your favor. One of the reasons is that imperfection is relatable. People don't always want polished, perfect stories, they want real stories that feel genuine. Take The Room, often called one of the worst films ever made. Despite its flaws, or maybe because of them, it developed a massive cult following. Why? It feels authentic, even in its awkwardness. When we see stories with mistakes, we connect to the vulnerability behind them. A 2020 survey by Adobe revealed that 54% of consumers believe authenticity is more important than the quality of the content itself. This explains why even flawed stories can draw large audiences. In contrast, perfectly crafted narratives may come across as too rehearsed, making them less engaging. The lesson here: sometimes, letting your guard down and showing the messier parts of your story can make it more powerful. Flaws create openings for connection. People might not remember the exact details of your story, but they'll remember how human it felt. Chapter 2: The Power of Chaos. How confusion can create curiosity. Bad storytellers often throw too much at the audience, leaving them confused. But surprisingly, this can work to their advantage. Why? Confusion breeds curiosity. When we don't fully understand something, we want to figure it out. This is called the Zeigarnik effect. Named after psychologist Bloomer Zeigarnik, this phenomenon shows that people remember incomplete or interrupted tasks better than completed ones. Let's talk about Lost, the TV show that was notorious for leaving viewers with more questions than answers. Its confusing, fragmented storytelling kept people hooked, even when they didn't fully understand what was going on. According to Nielsen, at its peak, Lost averaged 15.5 million viewers per episode. People kept coming back because they wanted to solve the mystery. So, if you're a storyteller, don't be afraid to embrace a bit of chaos. You don't always have to explain everything up front. Leave some gaps, raise questions, and let your audience fill in the blanks. Confusion, when done right, keeps people engaged. Chapter 3: The Shock Factor. Tapping into the unexpected shock grabs attention. That's just a fact. But why do we love it so much when something catches us off guard? According to a study published in the Journal of Neuroscience, our brains are wired to pay more attention to surprising or unexpected events. It's a survival mechanism. Look at YouTubers or TikTok creators who tell wild, shocking stories that may not even be that well constructed. They grab attention because they break the pattern. The audience isn't expecting what's coming next, so they stay glued to the screen. A great example is the rise of true crime podcasts. Stories filled with shocking twists and turns often outperform those with more predictable outcomes. In 2023, Edison Research reported that true crime podcasting accounted for 10% of all podcast consumption, with the shocking nature of these stories playing a key role in their success. Shocking storytelling keeps audiences invested because they're constantly waiting for the next twist. If you want to stand out, don't shy away from using the unexpected. It doesn't have to be grand, it just has to break the norm. Chapter 4: The Confidence Conundrum. Why delivery beats substance. There's a saying, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. This couldn't be truer when it comes to storytelling. You can have the most mundane plot, but if you tell it with enough confidence, you'll capture attention. Studies show that humans are more likely to trust and pay attention to people who speak confidently, regardless of what they're saying. A 2018 study published in Psychological Science found that people trust confident speakers more than knowledgeable ones. This explains why sometimes bad storytellers, who may lack structure or substance, can still shine if they deliver with conviction. Think of someone at a party telling an absurd story with full enthusiasm and energy. You know the story is ridiculous, but their passion draws you in. The TED Talk phenomenon is a great example of this. Many talks have gone viral not because of the content, but because of the speaker's confident delivery. In fact, TED speakers who appeared more confident were rated as more competent, even if their speech wasn't as groundbreaking. So, one major takeaway for storytellers is, don't overthink your plot. Focus on how you deliver it. If you can speak with confidence, you can keep your audience glued to your words, even if the story itself isn't perfect. Chapter 5, The Emotional Rollercoaster, How Bad Storytelling Stirs Stronger Reactions. Bad storytellers often make their audience feel more. Whether it's frustration, confusion, or surprise, they manage to create an emotional reaction. And here's the key, people remember how they felt during a story more than the actual details. In fact, research from Princeton University suggests that stories triggering an emotional response are more memorable. The study found that emotions enhance the brain's ability to process and retain information. A great example is Sharknado. The movie is universally acknowledged as bad, yet it sparked a global phenomenon. Why? Because it played with audience emotions, mainly shock, humor, and disbelief. The audience didn't care about plot holes, they were entertained by the chaos. According to Sci-Fi, the first Sharknado movie drew over 1.4 million viewers during its debut, proving that emotional engagement can outweigh storytelling quality. As a storyteller, don't be afraid to play with your audience's emotions. Create high highs and low lows. Even if the narrative gets a bit sloppy, if your story evokes strong feelings, your audience will stick around and remember it. Chapter 6, Breaking the Rules, How Bad Storytelling Reinvents the Norm. The beauty of bad storytelling is that it often doesn't follow the rules. And breaking the rules can be refreshing. Audiences are used to the same patterns, 3-act structures, predictable plot lines, and neat conclusions. But when a story breaks away from these conventions, it feels new and exciting. In fact, many great pieces of art started as rule breakers. Take Memento, directed by Christopher Nolan. It defied the typical narrative structure by being told backward. While some found it confusing, it became a cult classic for how it broke traditional storytelling norms. According to a study in Narrative Inquiry, stories that diverge from conventional narrative structures often engage audiences on a deeper level, as they're forced to think more critically. So, if you find yourself struggling to follow traditional storytelling rules, don't worry. Embrace the chaos. Some of the most interesting stories come from those willing to take risks and step outside the box. Audiences often appreciate unpredictability, even if it means the story is a little rough around the edges. Subscribe now and be a part of our growing community of awesome viewers.